Risk reduction and hierarchy of control is also the main part of risk assessment. In this presentation, we will discuss about the hierarchy of control measure and risk reduction according to that one. We will also discuss about the categorization of the hierarchy of control and which type of control is required at which level of risk, and how we are going to measure that which control measure is required for the higher level of risk, low level of risk, in order to reduce the severity or in order to reduce the probability. All we will discuss about in this part of risk assessment training. Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel HSE Consultant. My name is Engineer Abdul Wahab. As you know, we are having a series of HSE training. So today's topic of that series, risk reduction and hierarchy of control. In this one, we will discuss about the control measure, different types of control measure, hierarchy of control, and many things more. Let's see what are the learning outcomes that we will have from this presentation. The first learning outcome will be the key element of assessment of control. What are going to be the key element for assessment of any type of control? The second thing that we will discuss is hierarchy of control. The third item that we will discuss, it will be the two-stage iterative approach to apply the control measures. The last thing that we will discuss, the risk factor, how it is going to affect the risk level and the control measures. Let's have a look on the key element of the assessment of control. Whenever we are going to assess any control, we are having some parameters on which basis we are going to assess that control measures. For example, we are having some control measures on our workplace. We will assess that is that type of control measure required for that specific hazard or not. By that control measure, what we can reduce? Severity, or we can reduce the risk probability. What is the adequacy of that control? And it relates to hierarchy of control to reduce the risk to the acceptable level. We will check that this control is adequate for this type of risk and this is related to the hierarchy of control or not. What will be the impact of that control on this risk? Either it will reduce the probability or the severity of the risk. The third point will be demonstrated effectiveness of the existing control. What is the effectiveness of that existing control? We will see that before that control measures, what is the risk level and what is the residual risk level after that control measure. Adequacy will be checked and effectiveness will also be checked there. We will also check about the reliability of that control measures in our system. If God forbidden that control measure is going to be failed, what will be the next step? How we are going to control the risk level and what is the reliability of that control measures that we have implemented on our system. So all these are the parameters on which we are going to assess any control measure. Let's see what's the next. It's the hierarchy of control. What is the hierarchy of control? It's a systematic approach to avoiding, eliminating, controlling, and reducing risk, considering step in rank and sequential order, substitution, beginning with avoidance, elimination, and substitution. Residual risk are control using engineering control, warning systems, administrative control, and personal protective equipment. Hierarchy of control is a systematic approach to control the risk level by avoidance the risk, then eliminating that risk, then substituting that risk. So all these three steps going to have the high impact on the risk level and going to reduce the severity of that risk. If still the residual risk is available, then we are going to put the engineering control, warning system, and personal protective equipment control on that risk in order to reduce the probability and the severity of that risk to acceptable level of organization. Let's see what are the steps of the hierarchy of control. Here we can see the hierarchy of control. First one is risk avoidance. We have to avoid that risk. We have to prevent the hazard should not enter to our workplace by selecting the raw materials, new technology, working methods, process design. So we have to avoid the risk before entering to our workplace. So it is the most preferred control measures on our side. The second most preferred is the elimination. That if we are having on our workplace, we have to eliminate that risk. We can change the work method. We can redesign our process. We can use a different chemicals if the risk is from the chemical. We can change the machinery. We can change the specification of the product if risk belongs to the product. We can change the parameters of our system in in order to eliminate that risk from our workplace. So this is the second most preferred control measure. The third one is substitution. For example, if the risk is due to some machinery, we can replace that machinery with another machine that is not having inbuilt risk. If the risk is due to the chemical, we can substitute that chemical with another chemical with lower risk. So by substituting, we can also control the risk. So these three are having the most effective control measures in our hierarchy of control. Then we are having the engineering control. In engineering control, we are going to apply the safety devices. We are going to redesign our process. So in this way, we can also control our risk. They are going to reduce the severity of that risk. For example, if the risk is avoided, so risk is avoided, it means the severity will not be there. By eliminating, the severity will also be impacted. Means chemical will be changed, our machinery will be changed, so severity will be impacted. The first three type of the control measures in the hierarchy, it can be done in the design phase of our plant. When we are in design phase, we can reduce the risk by these three type of control measures. We can check there that is there any type that is there anything that is coming to our workplace is hazardous, so we can remove or change that thing from another thing. We can put some control measures by substituting or eliminating or by the engineering control. In the design phase, these three type of control measures can be done because can avoid the risk. We can see if there is some material or some machinery that is hazardous to our plant or environment or workplace, we have to avoid that one. So we can avoid it in our design phase. Also, we can eliminate that thing and change our process. We can replace that chemical or material or equipment with another chemical with the less level of risk. So engineering control will be done in the engineering stage of that project. We are installing some things, then we can put the engineering controls on that one. We can put the safety devices, warning alarms, laser beams. We can also put the safety valves, shutdown buttons, automatic sensors. So by putting all that safety devices, we can reduce the risk level in engineering control or engineering stage of our plant. In warning, we have to provide the warning sign, multilingual warning signs, so that the person can read it and should not enter in that area. We can barricade the area. We can also isolate the high risk machinery. So all these different signs, statements, letters, we can reduce probability of risk. The administration control. In administration control, we are going to retrain our people. We are going to have supervision. We are going to have inspection, audits, and to check the effectiveness of all the control measures on our workplace. Administration control will also going to reduce the likelihood of the risk. It will not affect the impact of the risk, it will more impact to the likelihood of the risk. Personal protective equipment. The last step of the control measure is providing the personal protective equipment to the workforce in order to reduce the likelihood as well as the impact of the risk. So these three, warning, administrative control, and personal protective equipment, they are having less effectiveness. And these are going to reduce the likelihood of the risk. The probability of occurrence of the risk will be reduced here, because the last three control measures, they are dependent directly on the human nature. Effectiveness of last three control measures on the nature of the person, and it is going to be less effective than the first three control measures of the hierarchy of control. So this is all about the hierarchy of control. What are the type of control measures? For which type of the risk, high risk level, which type of the control measures we are going to use? What is that control measures effectiveness, more or less? What that control measure is going to reduce? Impact of the risk or the probability of occurrence of the risk? And in which stage we can have that control in our process. All this we have discussed in the hierarchy of control. So let's see what is the next. In the next, we are having two-stage iterative approach on our system. The first stage is we are going to implement the first three control measures on each risk. If we are going to implement the first three, then on the residual risk, we are going to implement the last four control measure of the hierarchy of control. In the first step, we are going to avoid that risk. We will try our best to avoid that risk or to eliminate that risk or to substitute that material, equipment or anything that we are using in our process with another material, equipment or chemical in order to reduce the risk level. So the first stage is called elimination stage. So if the risk is there after having these first three control measures, we will call as the residual risk, and this residual risk will be controlled by the second stage, by engineering control, by awareness, by administrative control like say work procedures, training, penalty systems, and by the personal protective equipment. By these four control measures, we are going to reduce the risk level, that is residual risk for the first stage, to the acceptable level of the organization. So this approach is called two-stage iterative approach. So let's see what is the next. In this slide, we are going to discuss about the protection factor. If we are going to control our risk by the first three control measures, we are going to have more impact on the risk level. As you guys know, the risk is combination of severity of the risk and likelihood of occurrence of that risk in our workplace. So if we are going to put the elimination control measure on our risk level, we are going to reduce the impact of that risk and the risk level will be reduced drastically. In the same way, if we are going to use the substitution, even the risk level will be reduced, but it will be the less effective control measure than the elimination. If we are using multiple engineering control, then it will be less than the first two, elimination and substitution, but more effective than the other, that is at the last. So in this way, we have given each control measure a multiplier according to its effectiveness. For example, if we are going to put the elimination, we are going to multiply that risk level to 0.1 in order to check the residual risk. 0.1 means that this is the most effective control measure on the hierarchy of control. If we are going to put the substitution, then we will multiply it by 0.4. If we are going to put the multiple engineering control measures, then we are going to multiply it by 0.6. If we are having single engineering control measures, then we are going to multiply it by 0.7. In this way, we are having for warning 0.8, for administrative control 0.9, for PPE 0.95. For no control, if we are having no control, we multiply it by 1. The risk level, raw risk level and the residual risk level will be the same. It means there is no control measure. That's why the raw risk level is equal to the residual risk. So by applying this formula, we are going to check the difference between the raw risk and the residual risk after applying the control measures. Hope you guys enjoy this video. If you find this video beneficial for you, kindly like, share and subscribe. Thanks a lot and bye bye for the next time.